Right. Rich Phippen, director of Bunch of Amateurs.
Welcome to the Cherrywood Podcast. It's Simon here.
It's Rachel here.
Please like, share and subscribe. Hello everyone, Simon and Rachel here from, what are we from?
Cherrywood
Podcast. Had a bit of a change around because the guests used to be in the middle, but we found that most of them broke their neck after 2 hours of looking at us both. So we've got our latest guest, which is Rich from Bunch of Amateurs. Really excited about having him on the show because I'm a bit of a fan. My son got me into Bunch of Amateurs, which I love. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks, mate.
Brilliant.
Thank you for having me.
I'm already sick of the headphones, so I might take them off because everything sounds reasonable. We'll soon find out. So, yeah, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. I found you through, obviously, Mark White, who came on the show. I don't know what episode number Mark's was, do you?
It was November time, I think.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't know, 50 something, but he's so funny. So tell us about where it all began, because you wasn't originally doing that, was you? Obviously, you came out of school. What did you want to do?
Always wanted to work in TV and film. That was always the dream. My dad is responsible for that. All through growing up, Dad got me into football and he got me into films. And when I left school, I went to the Brit school, the Brit College. So,
really?
Yeah, mid-90s. Got to go to the Brit Awards. I was there when Michael Jackson was there and Jarvis Cocker ran on stage.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, that was
cool. I was annoyed with Jarvis for that, but then as I've got older, I was like, I can see where he's coming from.
He kind of stopped.
He acted like Jesus, didn't he, really?
Yeah,
Jackson.
I mean, when you look at it now, funny enough, I looked at it a couple of weeks ago, so I said to a friend, I think it's on YouTube, and you can just see me and him at the front of the mosh pit.
Oh, really?
If you know what we look like, you can just see our blurry faces. Because Jarvis comes on stage where we were, and he's kind of like, I don't know what to do. And we were trying to get him. We were very leery, a lot of drunk 16-year-olds.
Yeah.
You were telling him to get Jackson.
Yeah, because Jackson had come on stage to get an award or something. I think this was before, I'm not sure. And we were all chanting moonwalk, moonwalk. And he kind of went no. And we went, you going absolutely nuts at Jackson. We were really nasty.
He's the first one to drop a C-bomb on the podcast.
He is.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You're all right. You're all right.
So I could swear. I think I punched Chris Evans in the foot that night as well because he was just in front of me. We were horrible. We were absolutely horrible. Jarvis Cocker came on and we were like, get him.
But he doesn't, looking at him, he doesn't look like that sort of arsehole, does he?
Yeah, but he might have when he was 16.
I was 16, yeah, we were cheeky. So anyway, I went to the Brit school and did TV and film. And then I was looking at universities to go to. And I think I went to the Roehampton Open Day, and the course that they were doing was almost identical to what I'd just done at Brit. So I went back to my tutors and said, do I do this? And they said, well, no, we reckon you should just go out and get a job, go and get a runner's job and get into the industry before the graduates do. And you'll have 3 years experience ahead of them. So I went and got a runner's job. I think the first one was at a company called Cloud9 TV, which was in Dorking, funny enough. I'm not from Dorking, I'm from a few miles away, but I worked for Cloud9 as a runner, $9,000 a year. I was making tea and coffee and painting the wall in their little studio whenever it needed a different colour.
Cloud9 does ring a bell, though. Definitely.
Everyone thinks that. It sounds like a big production company, but this was a corporate. It was 4 employees. So
okay.
I remember at the time when I had the job, people were like, oh, you work for Cloud9? And I'm like, everyone seems to think this is some... I don't know, maybe there were 2. Their biggest claim to fame was an animal rescue documentary on Channel 5. I think that was the only thing that had ever made it to broadcast.
Right, okay.
Everything else was for Siemens or Nissan internal promos, that kind of thing.
Yeah, okay.
Today's sponsors are Dimedici Associates, Chartered Structural and Civil Engineers.
Based in the UK with a worldwide reach.
Visit their website on dimediciassociates.com.
Right at Home Medway, providers of safe and trusted quality care for adults in the comfort of their own home. Whether you need companionship, medication assistance, personal care, living care or more, we've got you covered. Visit rightathome.co.uk/medway or call them on 01634 979 000.
Put your business in front of 30,000 new customers with the Hindsight Directory. This A5 full-colour magazine is delivered by Royal Mail to Maidstone, Gravesend, Medway and Bromley, with more areas to come. Visit hindsightdirectory.co.uk. Need stunning video or photography for your big day or even your business? Cherrywood Production delivers award-winning results with a personal touch. From weddings to promotional content, we turn your vision into reality. Visit cherrywoodpro.com today. Your memories, our passion.
That lasted a few months. Actually, they asked me to do something on like an early version of Photoshop, and I'm colorblind and I hadn't told them this, and I told them I wanted to work in camera stuff, and when I produced this thing and it was brown instead of green, they were like, "Are you colorblind?" And I was like, "Yeah," and I lost the job within about 3 weeks after that.
Really?
So, like, in hindsight, I should sue them for some sort of discrimination. Yeah. But they helped me get a job at Teddington Film Studios, where I was a runner, making the tea and coffee for the edit suites. So Timmy Mallet was there. I'm sure a lot of people remember Timmy Mallet.
Going?
I think he was editing his comeback show at the time, and I don't remember it ever making it to air, but he would refer to himself in the third person a lot. So he'd come into our kitchen where we were working and be like, I think he said once, I met a guy on the tube today who really digs Timmy Mallet, and we were like, "But you're Timmy Mallet."
How weird is that?
I think, well, maybe he treated
As a character.
the Timmy Mallet off of TV as a character, yeah. But he was good entertainment. Alistair McGowan was there.
Was he a genuinely nice guy?
Yeah, he was a nice chap. Yeah, he was a nice chap. I often think about what happened to a lot of the presenters from the BBC from that era, and I'm really glad that Timmy Mallet was not in fear of Operation Yewtree or anything like that.
Yeah.
Then I kind of gave up on the TV dream for a little bit and worked in life insurance for a year or two. I didn't know what I was doing there at all. I remember working on the phones during the endowment crisis where people had shortfalls on their mortgages, and I had no clue what I was talking about, and I was just making it up and trying to make people feel better.
I have trouble putting an age to you, actually, Rich. I don't know if you're similar to me, but I think you're a bit younger. I think you're mid-40s, aren't you?
I'm mid-40s, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
45 and a half.
There you go. Exactly mid-40s.
Good shout. Then eventually left life insurance to go to... I just started at eShore when they first started, and I'd been there a week and a half, and I'd been for an interview at Sky for a runner's job. Well, it was a receptionist runner's job thing, and I was 10 days into eShore when I got the call from Sky saying you've got the job, and I just quit. eShore, and it was brilliant because it was like, I don't want to work in car insurance.
Oh God, yeah.
So I went to Sky, worked in reception for a year, then I worked in the music department for a year.
Where would that be based?
That was in Isleworth.
Right, okay.
Osterley, Isleworth, whatever you call it, at their head office. And I met a guy called Mike who went on to become my boss and mentor, and he just started the skymovies.com website, and he came out to me on reception and was, "What's your name?" I went, "Rich." He goes, "Rich on reception. You could be a columnist for us. Do you know anything about movies?" And I was like, "Well, funny you should ask. Pretend you don't, and we'll make you a man on the street." So I had a column alongside Barry Norman, which was amazing because my mum couldn't believe that I was working with Barry, which I wasn't. We're pretty sure that Barry Norman's PA was writing all the reviews by that point. And then, then got a job in movies and worked for Sky Movies for about 14 years in the end, I think it was. Wow. But that took me out of production. It took me into online and new media, as they called it back then. And I kind of always had this itch to go and do production stuff, which is what I'd always, which is what I'd always wanted. I got to do a bit of it. I worked in the studio a few times, and we had our own little TV shows on Sky Movies it's kind of hard to explain, but we worked in little teams, and I'd get to write scripts. I wrote scripts for people a few times, and the guys in production liked my scripts, but the opportunities very rarely came up. So I'd also been told all my life, once my voice broke, to do narration.
That's what I say. He's got a good voice for it.
And I kind of believed people, but I'd hired people to do VO a lot, and I could see how competitive the landscape was. And at Cloud9, actually, we got James Wilmot Brown from EastEnders in, and he told me about how good a job it was. Because do you remember James Wilmot Brown, late 80s? He raped Kathy once. That was the big story.
He was like...
she loves EastEnders.
No, I don't.
He was really posh.
He was, yeah.
But he was a villain.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that does ring a bell, but I can't think what he looked like.
Johnny Vaughan show, that short-lived sitcom that he was in.
I never knew Johnny Vaughan was in a sitcom.
Yeah, it only lasted one series. Anyway. But anyway, I knew how competitive the voiceover landscape was, and thought, I'm not even going to bother trying. I don't stand a chance. So once I left Sky, which was a really complicated exit, and
You don't want to go into that, do you?
I legally can't. But that makes it sound like I did something really bad.
So
I
out of
totally
order.
didn't. I
Yeah,
just,
righto.
don't get me started because I will break my NDA. I'm terrible at breaking NDAs. So,
Have you ever had anyone take you to court over breaking them?
no,
Right, okay.
could have done.
That's not a, that's a no, not yet.
Not
so
yet.
shut your mouth.
Yeah, not until this goes out. Yeah. No, it was a tough time, really tough time. I left the job. I mean, that job was dying anyway. Most of what I'd done had been automated, disappeared. The platform I worked on was plugged into so many parts of Sky that if you took us away, then Sky Q would have fallen over and
Right.
the red button stuff wouldn't have worked or whatever. So I think they wanted to close us down from what I could tell, but they didn't really have the option to. And it just kind of suited the company and me to leave. It got complicated. So once I'd left, I couldn't get back into TV at all. I couldn't find, I was running Sky Movies. I was the editor of SkyMovies.com. How many movie website jobs are out there? I've discovered like 4. So unless someone quit their job or died, I wasn't going to get that job. So I did some other online stuff. I worked for EMAP, the magazine company, for a while, trying to fix up their websites. I did some bits for advertising agencies and was just bored out of my mind because this was not my industry.
Yeah.
I mean, the online
So
stuff
were you like
was.
a WordPress sort of man, or?
I mostly worked on bespoke content management systems.
Right, okay.
So when I worked on
So
those...
can you code and things?
A little bit, but
Right.
not much. I worked, so at Sky, I worked with coders to build. I was the user, I was
Yeah.
the client, and I'd work with them to get the CMS built. But I was also a film reviewer and feature writer and interviewer and stuff like
Right,
that. So it's a
okay.
bit of everything. Honestly, I couldn't do what I do today without that time at Sky because I worked on so many different facets. And when you work in the online department like that, you're dealing with production or marketing, press and publicity, scheduling. So,
So you
get
get a
to
little
know.
piece of
Yeah.
every cake, and then you can just combine them all together. And then
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
And then when it comes to finding another job, there's nothing like it.
Nothing like it, no. And I think at one point I got interviewed by somebody I used to hire as a freelancer. And I remember coming out of that interview thinking, how's this come about? Like, I used to be moving towards senior management and now I'm down here. And it was so hard to find a job that I wanted to do. That I'd take it anyway. I ended up with some freelance work at ITV around the same time that I decided to do to make a film around non-league football.
Okay.
I had a camera. Don't talk about that too much. Where that came from. I had a camera.
What, a camera?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Guys, if anyone
Just
can
say you had a camera.
I had a camera. But it's a good story. I can't tell the camera story. I had a really good camera.
Can you have a vague? Well, it's quite easy to influence.
Let's just say that while I was at Sky, I went out and bought a camera.
Okay.
And I used that camera latterly to start making a film.
Okay.
Okay.
Camera that I could never have afforded on my own budget. Anyway, I used that camera to do some filming and then got some advice from a guy, and I sold that camera to buy 3 other cameras, and I had more coverage. And I was working for This Morning at the time. In the last shift I did for them, they called me in out of the blue and said, we need you tomorrow morning. We need you as cover and to run socials. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm fine. I went in the morning and the production office was empty. I'm like, where is everyone? Oh, they're all in studio. And I was like, why? And they said, we can't tell you yet. And then at 9 o'clock, Philip Schofield came out and I was running the socials and they gave me no heads up at all.
It feels like you were. When did it come out? 4 years ago?
Yeah, well, it was just before lockdown.
Yeah,
It was my last.
Really,
it
just
was my
before
last
lockdown,
TM
right?
shift,
Okay, it feels a lot shorter than that, to be honest.
Which that's still 5 years ago.
Yeah,
years ago, yeah.
So that was. I mean, I did some other bits for ITV over the years, but that was the last time I went into the office. And after that, so I'd started filming at Cherrywood with Barks, the manager there, who's a friend of a friend.
And was you calling it Bunch of Amateurs from the start?
No, it's called For the Love of the Game at the start.
Right.
And Barks was a big part of it at that point. He had a lot he wanted to share around non-league football and loads of ideas, great ideas guy. So we worked quite closely together on that. And he was friends with a few footballers, ex-footballers, Scott Dan, the big guy Smith played for Millwall, forgotten his first name, and Robbie Simpson is now the Chelmsford manager. So he got me some interviews, so we go and chat with those guys. At that point, we were just trying to get as much content as I could. And I was showing what I was doing to someone who works at a film distribution company, a friend of mine. She was encouraging me and saying, keep going, keep showing us. We might be able to sell this eventually. But then lockdown happened. And I'd done a bit with Mark. My barber had said, after I told him what I was doing during a haircut, he was like, oh, you should go meet the guys at Dorking. They're doing really well. So I popped down there and I met Mark and was like, oh my God, this guy.
Yes. See, now...
And that was your initial attraction to him? Just the first meeting that you had with him, it was like...
Yes.
I've got a connection with
So I met Alan, the club secretary, and he's like, no, you don't want to talk to me, you want to talk to this guy. And I went across the bar and he was like, hello, mate. And I said, right.
He's so approachable, isn't he?
Yes. And he says yes to everything because he knows everything's going to be positive for his club, right?
Yeah, see, the thing is, right, I was introduced to a bunch of amateurs by my son, and that was only a year ago at the very most. So I went to season 1 where you followed a different team. Am I correct?
Yes.
And then season 2, you went to Dorking, and then it seems like you stayed at Dorking ever since you met Mark.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, at the very start, I didn't differentiate between the teams. I just saw it as a bunch of amateurs. This week we're with Child, or this week we're with Dorking.
Right, okay.
Mark didn't like that. So you'll notice after a while, the opening graphic changes from just bunch of amateurs to bunch of amateurs. Because Mark goes, why don't you just call it Dorking Uncovered, something like that? And I was like, that's as good as any idea. So I called it Dorking Uncovered.
Yeah.
So then we did separate the series out.
Yeah.
But we started with Cherrywood, and that lasted... Well, it was all a bit of a mess. I filmed with Cherrywood, and then COVID happened. So then I started again with them after COVID. But then we had another lockdown, so I went back to the original stuff. So season 2 came first, and then season 1.
Oh, right, okay.
So the very, very first episode of Bunch of Amateurs is episode 1, series 2 of Cherrywood, and I hadn't nailed my narration at all at that point. I was a bit embarrassed about what I was doing. All my friends to laugh at me. So I changed my voice a bit and I started doing a Tom Hardy because I just watched a bit of the Spurs one, and it was like, here at Cherrywood. Like that.
Oh, was ya?
More of a Ray Winston,
I didn't
actually.
notice that.
Yeah, I can't go back. It's so embarrassing. And I was like that for a while, and I kept it very dry, and then just got a bit more cocky with it, and just stopped caring, I suppose, and just sort of had a bit more fun with it. Yeah,
No
I like all the Charlton quotes, like the like Colin Walsh at the Valley or whatever. It was something 3 minutes in, a Colin Walsh at the Valley.
Charlton get no references anywhere. So someone's got
I love it. Every time I hear one, oh, there we go, he's in there again.
We were watching it in bed the other night, and he went, "It's a Charlton reference." Yes, I was like, "Okay."
Someone's got to do it for the club. I mean, you can. I mean, there's an Only Fools and Horses reference once. Rodney Charlton, Trotter, whatever it is.
That's it.
Apart from that, you can count on one hand how many Charlton references there are in the world.
Do you know what? There's a Charlton badge in The Boys. You know that superhero?
Is there?
On
that rings a bell. Yeah, because he's a Londoner, isn't he?
Yeah, and there's a Charlton thing going on there somewhere.
I saw that once.
And I wrote a comedy which is on Amazon Prime, and they got Charlton scarves on.
Well played.
And I was doing it the day before the playoff final. There was a flashback. And I said it the day before the playoff final because that's imprinted in my mind. Or so I thought. My son said, "You're a month out, you twat." Was it Back to the Valley? It was Back to the Valley. The day before they went back to the Valley, and I ballsed it up. I balls the date up by a month.
Damn.
Research, mate. Research.
Not that many people are going to notice.
No one's going to notice.
You get away with it.
No one's going to notice.
I get people point out quite a bit when I make mistakes, and I just delete that comment and think, well, no one else is going to notice.
Who cares? Everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah, we do our best.
What was I going to say? So let's get on the Charlton a little bit, if you want to dabble in a bit of Charlton. So your dad got you into them?
Yeah, it was November 1985. Somewhere around then.
Oh, you've been supporting them longer than me.
That was the last game at the Valley. I was 6 years old, and Dad took me down there, or up there, and I was very confused about the whole thing because there's a pitch invasion.
Robert Lee scored the goal,
yes, he did, yeah. It's against Stoke, I think. We're not going to Selhurst Park. People were chanting.
That's it. Taking bits of
the pitch. Yeah.
I bet you thought, this ain't the football.
Yeah, is this normal?
People climbing up the floodlight.
That's right, yeah. Dad got a lot of pictures of that. And then a month later, whatever it was, we're at Selhurst Park. So that was normal to me. Selhurst Park. Didn't know any better.
87, I started
Oh, really?
at Selhurst Park.
Yeah.
So I only ever knew them at Selhurst Park.
Strange feeling,
And
isn't
I
it?
remember going on the train, passing the valley, and I can't remember, but the fans used to chant a song, some sort of valley song as we went past on the train.
Back to the valley?
No, it wasn't like
Valley
that. It was
Forward
like a
Road?
really calm sort of. It was. I've never heard it again.
Interesting.
It was really weird, like a sort of hymn about the valley as they went
Wow.
past it. honestly. And I used to
emotional.
dream about watching them play at the valley, and obviously my dream would be so warped on how the valley looked and all
Yeah.
that. I would
I
love to
remember
have gone.
being so excited about the countdown of going back. I just couldn't
When did they
believe
go
it.
back? So how long were they?
92.
92, yeah.
Right.
92.
Okay.
December 5th, 92.
And I put November 5th, 92 in the comedy.
Okay, right, there you go.
Yeah.
That's an easy mistake to make. I don't blame you. So Selhurst Park, then Upton Park for a bit, and then back to the Valley.
Upton Park. I got my stereo nicked every game at Upton Park.
Did you? We had one nicked as well.
Yeah.
There's a story that the Charlton fans on the website know, where my dad used to take the faceplate off the stereo and he'd
Yeah.
hide it under the seat.
That's it.
They got a hammer, whacked the door, got into the car, got the faceplate, put it on, ejected his Dwayne Eddy tape, threw it on the floor, then stole the stereo. And he was mortally offended that
They
they'd
didn't take
ejected
the
it.
tape.
I think he'd have been happier if they'd taken it. you know.
I've got a cousin who's a Charlton fan who's colourblind electrician, funnily enough, and he got sacked. Well, he got
Worrying.
moved over to mechanical and I was going to mention it when you said you were colourblind. He got moved over to mechanical because he kept blowing stuff up because he's an electrician. But he's the jammiest bastard you'd ever meet, right? He got his stereo nicked at Upton Park. He went straight to a policeman. He went, "My stereo's been nicked," and they went, "It's not this one, is it?" And it was his fucking stereo.
No.
He got his stereo back. They caught him. Just happened to have his stereo in
Wow.
In their hands.
He's a jammy git. He really is.
Wow.
He's the kind of guy he puts a pound in a fruit machine, comes out of 100 quid. Fucking annoys me.
Yeah.
So we went to Upton for a couple of seasons, didn't we? That was only
Yeah.
meant to be one.
It was back then. It was quite character building for me because all of my friends were Liverpool fans or
Right.
whatever. So I got a lot of
Stick.
stick for being a Charlton fan. But my dad had given me the stock responses to say to people like, "Do you go to games? Of course you don't. We go every week." You know.
Yeah.
And I think that worked. And then throughout the 90s, we weren't season ticket holders, but we probably went about 75% of home games. But it was a drive I lived in Reigate, so it was an ritual, really. Dad leaving at 12:30, didn't get back till 7:30 or whatever. So it was a full day. And I really missed those days. That was good fun. We had the same routine every week. Not really had that since.
You used to have to go into the shop, get some mints.
Yeah.
So I found a good place to park at the Valley, which was up Floyd Road. So you got the station there, but then you go up the hill, and then there used to be flats there, and it says no ball games or no unauthorised parking.
Right.
And then, well, what is unauthorised parking? So I used to park there.
I've authorised myself to park here.
Never got done there, and it was just up the
Really?
hill from the Valley, like for 10,
Perfect.
15 years, never got
Perfect.
done. And then I'll go to the shop, buy
your
some
rituals,
mints,
yeah.
and this kid's go, "Hello, mate, not seen you for ages." This bloke, used to buy samosas off him as well, and then down to the Valley and lose. So it's perfect.
Yeah, we parked on the other side of the ground,
Right.
and I became a very good. Once I started driving instead of Dad, I became a very good parallel parker because
Right.
squeezing your car in over there was
Yeah,
a nightmare.
yes.
But as Dad got older and he couldn't walk up the hill over that side, I'd have to leave a bit early to drive down the hill to pick him up and stuff. So, there was a big evolution of kind of rites of passage of going with my dad. And after Dad passed, it was really hard to keep going back, but I forced myself to, and a good friend of mine would come with me.
So when did you lose your dad?
2015.
Right, okay.
2015. So I made sure I went back immediately, and it was emotional. But I didn't want it to become a thing and then never go back,
Yeah.
So kept going. And then when I met my then girlfriend, now wife, she would come with me and stuff.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
got used to it.
I never went with my dad. He said he was a Forest fan, but he wasn't that bothered about football anyway. He hated watching me play because he wanted to punch the managers for shouting at us. Do you know what I mean? So he sort of stayed away from football, really.
I was a terrible footballer, and so was my dad, as far as I can remember. But Dad was great for supporting me. I was a goalkeeper,
Right.
stand behind my goal for every game. In hindsight, I remember when I came out of retirement at the age of 15 to play for my school. remember I didn't tell him where I was playing, but he figured it out and he drove down on his motorbike and stood behind my goal that
bless.
time as well. Like, he was, in hindsight, he was brilliant for that.
Yeah.
I wish I'd thanked him more, to be honest.
So he'd be quite proud about what you're doing now.
Oh, it's the biggest tragedy of my life that he hasn't got to see the show.
Yeah.
It's, he loved this kind of thing. And I wouldn't be doing it without him. I mean, he loved Danny Baker, and I take a lot of my influence from Danny Baker and some of his jokes. And he did a thing called, was it The Game?
Something like that, yeah.
He shot Sunday League like it was.
I can't remember now.
He shot Sunday League like it was a normal football broadcast.
Yeah.
So he had the gantry and the commentators and all of the cameras and stuff.
Yeah.
And that is one of the probably top 5 things that have influenced me. And I remember Dad buying me the DVD to get me to go back and watch it when I was thinking about what to do.
Would you say you're a joint fan now of Dorking and Charlton?
Yeah. I didn't think that was possible for most of my life.
I've got to be honest, since me and my son went there, it's such a lovely club, a really welcoming club as well, that we keep an eye on both results now.
Yeah, I think until you've experienced non-league, it is hard to imagine being a fan of more than one club. And I think as you get older, you become a bit more circumspect about it. My life is much more affected by Dorking's results. Like, it has a direct impact on what I'm going to be doing. Whereas Charlton, I can switch off and my life's exactly the same. If Dorking hadn't won the playoff final, I wouldn't have driven around the country for a year, 2 years or whatever. So
Dorking's almost like your job,
Right,
and
isn't it?
Charlton is your hobby almost.
yeah, to an extent. But because of the nature of the sport, they're both kind of intertwine. And I've got 2 favourites on my phone on Flash Score, and it's Charlton Dorking. And the amount of times that they have the same thing happen to them at the same time is mind blowing. They both go behind at the same time. Both take the lead at the same time. It's happened loads over the years.
That's happened a lot. I've noticed that.
I wouldn't. I think I've bought my son a Charlton shirt. He's only 18 months and it's too baggy for him. But I love seeing him in that. He's got a Dorking hat, but a Charlton shirt. So I think that probably sums it up, I think.
Yeah. So let's talk about a bunch of amateurs. So season 1, was you by yourself just shooting it all? And how have you progressed since? Because when I watched you, there was you had about 5 or 6 men working for you. Not just men. I'm not being sexist, that's just me.
At the very, very start, it was just me. Then I knew I needed more help. So I said to 3 or 4 good friends, I can train you up on this stuff if you want to come and help me. And they said yes. And a friend of mine's daughter needed some work experience. She was only 14, so she learned to use a camera. And they all pretty much fell away except one of those friends, Greg. And Greg loved having that creative outlet, and he would do a lot of YouTubing and figure out how to do stuff, how cameras work, lighting, all of that kind of stuff. So he got fully into it. So me and Greg shot most of season 1, just the 2 of us, and particularly as it allowed us out of the house during lockdown. Mark was really good at that. He got a lot of people, and he had a maximum amount of people he could have at the ground volunteering, and he maxed out so that people could get out of the house and come and see the games and stuff. So all legally, obviously. And then we realised we needed more help. So that's when Jack jumped on board. He was a guy down in Southampton who just wanted to get out of what he was doing work-wise and said, I'll dedicate myself to this. So he came up and volunteered. And then when we started making enough money, I could start paying them.
Where'd your money come from, like YouTube and things? Or?
Yeah, it's quite diversified. The majority is YouTube, Dorking pay a retainer, then TikTok is up and down, depending on obviously success, and it seems to be however TikTok feel about how much they're going to pay you. Patreon was important at the start. Now we use Patreon and YouTube memberships, and that's probably about 50% of the income is from those guys. So we couldn't do without the members. And when people complain, as they want to do, they'll argue, we want it all for free or whatever. And I'm like, well, it's the guys paying for the extra stuff that are keeping the show going. So you can watch it for free, because our views are not high enough to survive purely on ad revenue. And we've got a way to go on that front.
Yeah.
So is that your main platform then, is YouTube?
Yes, yeah.
It's our main platform, but we've gone about it in a slightly different way. So we use the sponsorship. So we find sponsorship for the show and use that sponsorship to promote on YouTube. We're not really at a position where we're earning from YouTube direct.
Yeah.
You know, we've only been going 15 months. So, that's the way we do it. So we get people on, we get their businesses on, and we promote that way. Just use that income.
Sponsorship is a lifesaver at times.
Yeah, and I think the problem we have, what I love about yours is there's a niche, isn't there? They're going to want to watch every episode.
Yeah.
With our show, it depends on who the guest is, who the host is.
It's a really interesting point, actually. I spoke to, have you heard of John Nellis?
No.
Arguably, I think technically the biggest football YouTube channel now.
Oh, okay.
And it's just a guy going around doing funny stuff. There's a producer that works for John Nellis, who I used to work with at Sky. I don't think we worked together, but we were there at the same time. I saw him on LinkedIn saying we've just got 2 million views for a video or something. I was like, how the fuck did he do that? So I contacted him and said, can we have a chat? And funny enough, he was on his way. He said, like, I'll call you in the morning. I'm on my way somewhere in the morning. So I phoned him up and he said, I'm on my way to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for something. You've got an hour. So we chatted while he was on his way. And what he made me realise was the reason we're successful on TikTok more so than YouTube is because it's accessible and you don't have to watch 30 episodes to understand where you are. It's just Mark saying something funny. And John Nellis has peaks and troughs, but mostly peaks because each video is completely standalone. It's Kobe Mainoo gets in a taxi and then it's Lionel Messi scores against our goalkeeper, whatever. So you can come across that and watch that whole video without needing to watch the rest.
Yeah.
So a challenge for us, I can't do it with Dorking now, it's too late, but if we do something else next year alongside Dorking or instead of or whatever, then I won't give it episode numbers. I will make it so that you can access any particular episode and not feel like I need to watch something else to understand what's happening here.
Okay.
And I think that's probably the best bit of advice that anyone's ever given me.
Yeah. I don't think that will matter so much when it comes to podcast interviews, having episode numbers. With
you are all about the person.
It's all about if they're interested in the person or not,
But I think there's so much in society nowadays that wants everything instant. You can binge watch a series if you want on Netflix or other platforms, but everyone wants that little bit, don't they? They want to see that funny bit and then go on, see the next funny. And it's instant, it's quick. So
it's the TikTok that brings them into the YouTube, innit?
So to go back to what I was saying about Sky, what I've realised is I hated when they made me work in marketing for a year or two. But I've learned something from that is the marketing funnels. And that's how I treat everything that isn't the core show. So the supercut of Bunch of Amateurs, for me, is the best part. Everything else I do is trying to funnel people into the supercut.
Yeah.
So whether it's TikToks, Instagrams, the free version, whatever, you're just trying to push everybody down into the supercut because that is A, the most expensive thing that they could spend money on, but B, that's where I can go completely nuts and not have to worry about YouTube algorithms or anything like that. That was another thing. I had a really good meeting with someone from YouTube a couple of years ago. He used to run like the sports division in America or something, and a friend of mine put me in touch with him, and he said, at the moment you're dropping off at the start and you're dropping off at the end. People just want to watch the match footage because you're losing 60-70% of viewers in the last 10 minutes before the last minute. YouTube is saying, right, I'm not going to show this to as many people. If you can keep that graph up at the end, then you're going to be more successful. So we took the team talks off the end because only 30% of people were watching them. Right. Of course, those 30% are quite vociferous about watching them. But it meant that if you end the episode as close to full time as possible, I'm only at 60%, or I'm at 60% rather than 30, 20%.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
And that makes a huge difference to the algorithm. And we saw an uptick immediately. And of course, people still want to watch that stuff. Well, for £1 a month or whatever, you can still see that stuff. But we just can't put it in the free stuff because we know for a fact, I've got the facts here. You're not all watching it. Yeah. So, and I think the post-match team talk's the most important part, personally. Yeah. Like that's the end, that's the storyline being summed up at the end. Yeah. And so in the games where he's going to go nuts, that helps us get more people onto Patreon and YouTube membership, BOA Plus as I call it, because they want to see what he said afterwards. And sometimes I'm walking in with the camera, I don't know whether he's going to go nuts or not. Like I didn't know on Tuesday if he was going to go nuts because they conceded late.
See, I must admit, when they conceded late, and so Dorking were winning 1-0 and then the other team scored, and I looked at it, I see Charlton had won, I looked over, I was like, Mark's going to go ballistic. That's the first thing I thought, and I'm shocked that you said he actually...
No, he didn't. He saw it as a positive performance and a positive result against another top 7 side, and it was all, everyone was down in that dressing room. It was silent, and he was like, I don't understand why everyone's down. It's the same with the coaches chat afterwards. He's like, this ain't so bad, lads. Then he saw the stats and got really annoyed, and he had to go at them 2 days later. But
he does make me laugh. He's just gold, isn't he? He's absolute gold to film. You know, I bet when you see him, you thought, I'm on a winner here as soon as you met this guy. So
I really realised it. He didn't know about TikTok, and it was Barks' idea. He's like, let's put some stuff on TikTok. And Barks started doing it without my permission. And I threw my toys out the pram at him on WhatsApp saying, how dare you? And he replied, he got very annoyed at me and said, look at what I've done for you. Fuck off, basically. And I looked at the stats and I was like, oh, fuck me. I've got to apologise. I've got to apologise. So I apologised to him, and he was absolutely right. We wouldn't be where we are today without Barks. And he's the one who said TikTok's really the place for us. Once we put Mark onto TikTok, like Mark and Barks were both brilliant for it. But once we started putting Mark having a go at people and whatever, and Mark came up to me one day. I think he was only vaguely aware of who I was, even when I was filming him. You know, I put the mic on him at the start and he'd just go off and forget about it. And I get 6 hours every week on a mic pack of Mark White. So you can imagine what that's like. And
every time I think of you doing a football match, I'm thinking, how much memory has he just used? How much are you putting on a hard drive?
Oh, a lot.
You must film constant then.
Yes.
You just film constant.
How many cameras you got going?
Before they got nicked, it was 22.
Oh my God.
Including the drone and all of the GoPros and stuff. Yeah, about 22.
So you've got to be up to about 500 gig a match.
More than that. It's more than that. It's about a terabyte a match. Yeah. So I've got a lot of hard drives.
What do you do with all your memory?
Squeeze it onto hard drives. So I've got 4 very large hard drives that daisy chain together.
Yeah.
And then I've got some really old, slow ones. So once they fill up, I archive.
Down into.
But the thing is, really, I should have 3 copies of everything. I should have the live copy and then 2 archives with one in a different location.
That's what I do.
I can't afford it. It's so expensive.
See, we're mainly weddings, but it's getting a bit 50-50 now, isn't it, with everything else? But wedding's 100 gig, and I'm like crying over 100 gig. Terabyte.
Yeah, I mean, the king of drives, my main drive is a 40 terabyte hard drive, and the others are like 20 each, the other 3. And then, of course, now it was Jack. Jack left recently, so now Archie is helping out. I've got to give them drives to work on.
But you're spending a day transferring, aren't you?
Yeah, you do it in the background. But yeah, I mean, yeah, so the transfer after the match is a frustrating but kind of satisfying process because you've got to do all of the GoPros and do them all, because I've got enough memory card slots to do all of the GoPros in one go, rename, move across, get all the folders right. Once it's all done and I can put done next to each folder, I feel like, job done, office is tidy. But yesterday I was freaking out.
I'm still getting over 22 cameras. Are you sure you need 22 cameras to get exactly the same out?
This is how we've cheated the system.
I'm being honest with him.
This is how we cheat the system, because when I first started, I've got a friend whose cousin works for a TV company, and Sam said, have a word with her, see what she thinks. And I told her what I was doing, and she said, love the idea, but the edit is going to be, and she put loads of $signs, because going through that much footage and figuring out where the stories are and whatever is going to be expensive. And Squad Goals, when they did their Dorking series, Squad Goals was 6 30-minute episodes, and I looked it up, and they spent about $500,000 on that series. And we are doing what they're doing, but 4 times as much on a shoestring, and not even close to that kind of budget. So we do that because when I do the edit, we just put everything in order in a bunch of different projects and then just start chopping it down. And I know where the key bits are already. I can look at the audio wave of Mark's microphone and say, there's Team Talk 1, there's Team Talk 2, there's halftime, there's full time.
So you leave it running, the audio running on his the whole.
Yep. So we've got 8 mics, or we had 8 mics, that mic packs that all of the coaches wear, and they run for the whole day. So I press record at midday, do 5 claps, and then we get them back at the end. Once you've synced up those claps, you've got the audio project, and you know where everything is.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from with that, but shit, that's a lot of work.
It's not. It is, but it's not. It is in the sense that there is a fuck ton of stuff to get through.
Yeah.
It's not because we know where all of that stuff is. It's a cookie cutter edit. So, it's intro, interviews, mid-tro, which is the bit between the two team talks when they're doing the warm-ups and stuff, the match itself, and then the team talks. So you edit them all separately and then just cut and paste them into one timeline and then go through that and tidy it up.
So do you have different people editing different bits?
Not really. It's one these days. So it was Jack, now Archie. They'll do all of that, put it into the supercut, give it to me, and then I tidy up the supercut and just shorten it as much as possible, change some camera angles and stuff, and then do the narration.
So you basically got every video, every track, every camera on there, and then you're just cutting and using different angles and things like that.
So you start with a match. There'll be the 2 main cams, 2 or 3 bench cams, my Ronin, then all of the audios.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, you've got 45
PC must
minutes
be whining like a bitch. With all those 4K tracks.
Yeah, so I had to spend a bit of money on a Mac Studio to make this work. So I've broken 2 iMacs now.
I bet.
Because they just couldn't handle it.
Yeah,
they would get to the point where they were just shut down.
Yeah.
Who taught? Did you have to teach yourself how to edit and how to?
Self-taught really. I mean, I've been around editors a lot.
Yeah.
I've worked when I was at Sky. We obviously had shift editors. So if you were making something, they would tell me I'd tell them what I need, and they would do it. And I'd sometimes ask them how or why they were doing something. I learned a bit at college at Brit School, but that was VHS to VHS back then. So you had to put in and out points, then the tapes would wind and then it'd wind back. So I'd always wanted to do editing, dreamed of it as a kid, but there was no way of doing it. If you wanted to make a video as a kid, you had to press stop and then go to your next scene and press record, and it was one take or rewind and re-record it. So the idea of having an editing deck of some sort was such a dream for me.
I've never edited analog before. Never. Tape, never done it.
It was hard. But I learned to edit on 3/4 inch radio tape. That was the first editing I ever did when I did radio at Brit School. And it was literally cutting the tape and taping it back together again. Yeah. And that, I think, is probably the best possible way to learn to edit. Because even the tools that you see on Premiere and Final Cut are replicating that.
Yeah.
So
because I learned when I did my university degree, I learned photography, and I learned in the darkroom, and I learned in a colour darkroom, black and white darkroom. I loved it, absolutely loved it. Seeing all the processes happen, and you actually still get your final print out of it. Yes, it's not digital, but you still get this print that you've actually developed. You can say, actually, I want a little bit darker here, I want a little bit lighter here, and you have to actually physically do it yourself. I love doing that.
Very satisfying.
Yeah.
I got married in 2000 and bought an editing program to edit my honeymoon because I was really into going to see the people that were going to film my wedding. I went to their studio, got into that, and then I thought for the honeymoon we got a camera. Not her, I married someone else. She's number 2.
2000, I was 13, so I hope he didn't marry me.
Slightly concerning. Yeah. And so I bought a program called Pinnacle Studio or Pinnacle. It's called Pinnacle DV back there, and it was slow and shit, but so were my computers, And now there's Pinnacle 26, and I don't think they're making a new one. I've used Pinnacle throughout my whole sort of career, and I do know how to use a Premiere Pro, and I have it, and I am transitioning to it because I think Pinnacle's discontinued now. But I can edit 4 times faster on Pinnacle than I could Premiere Pro.
Yeah,
it's a bit clunky and a bit. I hate the way it separates the video from the audio, which is weird.
I get really confused by it. When I was at ITV, they insisted that I use Premiere, and there was one occasion actually I was working from home, and I took all of their assets and I did it in Final Cut instead because I was so much faster. Yeah. And at the end, they said, thanks for that, but can you send us the original project file? So I had to rebuild everything I'd done in Premiere anyway. So I only just know my way around Premiere. I hate Premiere. I can't use it.
Is there not one file you can use that will link? Or what was it, like an ITC?
He's done it. You don't have to help him now. He's done it.
No, because usually with industry standard stuff, they are interchangeable in a way with this one file that.
Save it all as a one.
ITC file or NTC file or something.
I'd be surprised if Premiere and Final Cut can in any way interact.
So that I went to Premiere Pro because it's an industry standard, but I hate it. I hate it.
Fuck 'em. Go to what you like. You're so much better off using what you're good at. There's that DaVinci Resolve is another one that they say to use because it's better at colour balancing. Being colourblind, it's the one thing I just don't bother doing. And I would love to have the budget to have someone come in and colour correct every episode. Ain't going to happen. I try sometimes and I'll get Claire in and she'll be like, you've made it look purple. And I'll be like, fuck it, just reset.
Yeah, well, you can probably line up all your cameras and then save it. Say, all your GoPros are going to be very similar.
Yeah, I've figured out the colour balancing for the GoPros now, and I set them all to the same setting.
Exactly.
But what I discover is one only has to be slightly away from that with another light, and it's
that's true.
I think
that's true.
Do you know
what? You set them on a setting, on board setting, you'll get away with it anyway.
A friend of mine, Mikey, TV producer guy. When I first started, I showed him what I was doing, and he was saying, "Oh, you're using jump cuts, and you need to paint over that with some B-roll or whatever." And I said, "Mike, it's a different world now. We don't have to worry about that stuff." I chatted to him the other day actually, and he was like, "I was totally wrong on that point." But what I think he was right about was I should take as much old-fashioned industry standard stuff to YouTube as possible, because then you get the best of both worlds. And if you look at a lot of particularly football channels, there's one in particular I won't name, they use every transition they can get out of a box, and it's just always a star's just coming, and now it's wiping that way, and I'm just like, I hate transitions. I'll never use them.
I just use a fade for weddings. It's based on what you're filming. For weddings, this is a lovey-dovey type thing. So it's just a slow fade to another.
Yeah, and exactly. And if
you're doing something fast-paced, bang, 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 sharp.
You don't need to mess about. And there's theory in a lot of dissolve. So like Star Wars does it, a cross dissolve. A wipe generally means this is happening at the same time, or a cross dissolve or a fade out and a fade in will mean some time has passed and whatever. Using old-fashioned TV theory and editing theory helps, I think, but you shouldn't be a slave to it in the current YouTube world.
100%.
That's what I found. So
100%.
People say, this is really high production value, and I'm like, I think it's just because I've learned a few things and I've been able to adapt them, but it's not budget. It's certainly not budget, because we don't have that.
No. Do you do what I do and watch a film and then back edit it?
In what way? What do you mean?
Well, he's a nightmare. Don't do it. Don't ever watch a film with him.
Can I? They've spent millions doing this. Can I create this? How would I create this myself using my program and my equipment? There
are times when I think, if there's a film that people perceive as being too long, or say Spider-Man 3, which I think it was Topher Grace has done a bit of this, I would like to re-edit it and make it better. I definitely would like to do that. So if there's a subplot that I think is completely extraneous, I'd love to go in and take it out and see if I could make that film work.
Someone's beat me to Pulp Fiction. I've wanted to just call it Fiction. And line the timeline up.
And just put it in order.
Yeah. So John Travolta was out of it halfway through,
Well, I remember a review of Memento saying it wouldn't be that good a film if it was in order. It's a very basic plot. And I thought, but that's not the point. Because it's driven by the character.
And he's got what is it? He can't.
He's got no memory. He can't form new memories. So I figured, okay, maybe the central plot isn't that wacky, but it's not about that. It's about the character and his experience. So I wouldn't want to reorder that.
Because it's about the viewer's anticipation of, okay, so what is the main thing that he's not remembering? Where has it all come from and stem from?
You're seeing it through his eyes.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't want to re-edit that one. But Pulp Fiction, I'd be interested to see what it does to it.
It's been done. It's on YouTube somewhere in order.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I'd watch that just to see. But no, I there are times when I'm like, I'd love to just make that a film that I want to watch. Like the fourth Indiana Jones movie has got so much crap in it. Well, if you just take some of that out, this could be a fantastic short film.
Yeah, well, Star Wars was originally edited horrendously, and I think his wife got involved and re-edited it. Yeah. I think you're a bit of a Star Wars nerd, aren't you?
Yeah,
I am.
I was kind of forced into it.
Really?
Every Christmas I'd get Star Wars stuff, so I became a Star Wars fan. Like I think it was just an easy option
your
for
dad
my
into it?
parents and that.
Yeah.
Dad was into all films. Dad got me watching. I mean, I was watching Die Hard when I was 9 years old. Like,
So what did he do for a living then?
Dad worked for Lambeth Council. He was an office manager he worked at Lambeth Council for 40 years or
Nothing
something.
Nothing creative. As such.
No, but he loved films, and the reason I could watch RoboCop when I was 7 or whatever was because he would explain to me how a blood pack would work. And he would call it strawberry jam.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be like, oh, that's disgusting. I'd be like, oh, that's a special effect.
Yeah.
Look, I'm 5
That's
years
what we
older than
do.
you, so I don't know how old you were when you was watching RoboCop, but I still hate the guy in the acid getting run over and getting splashed.
Dad got lucky there because I went to Peter Broad's birthday party before the film ended. So I didn't see that for another couple of years.
How is Peter?
I haven't seen Peter Broad in 30 years.
Really?
But, I remember seeing that a couple of years later and thinking, I don't remember this. Help me. You know that.
That's it.
Dr. Romano out of VR it was, got covered in acid.
But we do that to our daughter, don't we? If we watch anything gruesome, we're like, right, you can watch it, but you do know it's all fake. And she's like, right,
fine.
so this bit, they have to put makeup on. I went, yeah, look. And you can actually show them now on YouTube because a lot of it is,
show the behind the scenes.
seeing the makeup and seeing how long the process takes and everything like that. And she's like, well, that's actually quite cool. So we do that to her as well, don't we? So
now I've got a son. I'm wondering at what point I'm going to do what my dad did and how
maybe not 18
my wife's going to feel about it. Like, what am I going to get away with here? But no, Dad's influence is huge on that stuff.
Oh, so going to more the football side of it, what is your biggest almost like, oh shit moment that you filmed and you thought, God, something's going to happen, something's going to kick off, or, it was like the most shocking thing that you filmed?
Shocking.
A fight going on.
There was one a couple of weeks ago, half-time punch-up, and it wasn't really a punch-up, it was a lot of grabbing and pushing. And the referees walked up behind me, and I've got my rig, and I just pointed the camera down. I thought, first of all, Mark's never going to let me put this in the episode, so it's kind of pointless. And
There's another 21 cameras on it anyway.
there was a camera in the distance. It was annoyingly I don't want to say the ground they're at, but the where they were, you couldn't really see. But I just thought the referee knows what's on my screen because all of the officials are standing behind me. I don't want to be compelled to give up that. I don't want to be told,
Put
give us that. Yeah. Give us. And
Can he say that though?
We didn't know. Well, we didn't know how bad it was going to get. As it turned out, there was nothing bad enough. No one even got booked. And I kind of wish I had it. But if it had got really bad and a punch had been thrown by someone on our side and they'd said, you can't film again unless you give us the footage, something like that, I just didn't want to be in that position. So I pointed the camera away.
You could, if they went obviously down the legal route as well, you could have had to use that as evidence as well.
I really don't know when it comes to that. I really don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the police can compel you.
Yeah.
I mean, you can deny you've got
Ref
it or say
can't.
it got deleted.
I doubt a ref can.
No, but I do try and keep officials on side. I need to keep them on side, and I talk to them every week, and nearly all of them say, we love watching the show, we love what you do with us, because they get a chance to reflect on it, and I don't allow much piss taking of the referees and stuff. I always say to them, we'll try not to use anything involving you because I know you're not really supposed to be recorded, but if you come out on top of a discussion, then I'll probably use it.
I remember one discussion, Mark was going mental at a ref, which he does within about 30 seconds of a game starting. And then the ref came over to him and he went, yeah, no problem. The ref changed him somehow. I don't know what the ref...
Was that the... when he asked him to pick out of Harry Kane and he said Kane or Watkins for Saturday?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And it was brilliant. Disarmed him immediately. Mark just laughed and went, yeah, Watkins all the way. And he's like, great, please don't swear at me. And Mark was like, yeah, fine. And we showed that.
I think there was two. There was one where you didn't actually, you edited it in a way where you couldn't hear what the ref had said.
Right.
Was it those words still? Was it you? Did you use two versions of that?
Well, that one was a TikTok. We made a big thing out of that one. That was from pre-season. But yeah, I mean, there's been more cases where the referees approached him really well or said, I've got it wrong. There's a really good one with Barks when we were all a bit confused about the law. When a player gets treatment on the pitch, should he have to go off? And Barks questioned him at half time. I can't remember which way around it was, but he said, did you get that right? And the ref goes, do you know what? I think I fucked up there. Barks is like, oh, okay, fine, no problem. He said, yeah, I think he was supposed to go off, but I didn't, so I'm really sorry about that. I was like, oh, brilliant, mate, shook his hand, and that was that. And I think we all know with the referees, if they do that, no one's got a
Respect.
problem.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Mark's
Everyone's
attitude.
human.
Yeah.
Mark, I've seen Mark loads of times as soon as the ref said hands up, or even the ref said, I know why you're saying that, Mark, but this is what I saw, so I've got to go with that. And he's like, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah.
And I don't pick on refs. I'm much more sympathetic to referees than anyone at Dorking. I generally find that when Dorking are arguing with a decision, there's probably a 90% chance that they're wrong. And when I edit it, I can see that they were wrong,
Yeah.
or at least see why the ref got it wrong.
It's very easy when you've just got your views on one side. It's very easy to see it in the way you want to see
Yeah,
it.
but again,
in the standard match, where are you
I'm
based?
next to the dugout.
You're
It's
Right next to the dugout.
Right.
So when I went to see the Slough, I was in between the dugouts. So I was going to try and talk to you, but I thought,
Don't disturb
I'm
him.
just trying to picture the ground. They all meld into one. I've got to try and picture the ground at Slough.
Slough at home.
Oh, at home? Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh,
recently.
in between the two dugouts.
Yeah, I
of
was in
course,
between the two dugouts. Yeah.
Yeah, I have so at Dorking, I get to stand behind a fence. And it took me 4 years to realise I could put my heavy camera on a tripod.
That's it.
So
Yeah.
it's on a tripod now, but for 4 years, it took me 3 years to realise I could rest it on the fence. So,
90 minutes.
yeah, it's my right elbow will be permanently damaged from carrying that thing.
Yeah.
Just doing that hurts. But it's funny enough. The desire to get the shot far outweighs bodily pain.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so you just do, from
Yeah.
weddings, right? You've got to
Yeah.
get that shot. So if you've got to crouch down and it's going to hurt your back, or you just got to do it because you know that's going to last.
Well, the
next
times
day.
I've set a tripod up in a position and then like a registrar would just, even though you've chatted with them, they've forgotten. They stand straight in front. So then-
Registrars to us are like your referees.
Yes,
we have to keep
I've-
them sweet, don't
Yeah,
we?
I've done a few weddings and I know exactly what that's like. They don't want you.
and the position's ruined. So then you pick up and then you're holding this camera, which hasn't got a stabilizer on it because you've just taken it off a tripod.
That's right.
And you're like, oh, just keeping it there.
And then they do readings, and you're thinking, "Oh, please do hurry."
But like you, I'd never shoot with one camera. Shoot a wedding with one camera, you're mental.
So risky.
So, it's and people do it. And I'm like, well, that's why they're cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I've dropped cameras in the middle of speeches, but I've had 2/3 others
If
filming
you've got the
different
coverage,
angles.
you'll be okay. Yeah.
And so, it's just the way it is. What was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, I was going to say, how do you keep the authenticity of the club you're filming, yet still get the content that people need to watch, or that?
Where did this come from?
Well, it's because you've got to appeal to the people, but you still want to make the club look as authentic as possible, don't you?
Okay.
We show pretty much everything that happens, minus a handful of things. So Mark watches the episode before it goes out. He watches the supercut when you can get him to. He still doesn't watch this week.
So it looks like you've got about a month from match to posting.
Yeah, we don't want to be that far behind. That's only because we've had so many midweek games.
Yeah, of course.
When that happens, we've got to try and get 2 edits done in a week, which becomes really hard. Ideally, we want the members' episodes to be 2 weeks after the event and the free version 3 weeks. At the moment, we're about a month. The edit takes about a week, all inclusive. So it takes about half a day to sync everything so it's ready to be edited. It will take a day to a day and a half to cut through everything and chop it down. Then another day to tidy it up and do the narration. And then another day to tidy that up, make any changes that the guys have noticed an error or Mark has made a change. And then export, upload, create the image, all of that stuff, and get it ready. So it's about a week. And at the point that Mark sees it, he will send me some notes scrawled on a Post-it note or in the corner of his diary, or sometimes a screenshot. of his
He likes a
notepad.
voice message.
And then you'll get a voice note summing up his decisions. The more I've got to know him, the shorter those lists have gotten.
Because you know what he's going to say.
Yeah, so it's only... But sometimes I think you're better off keeping it in just in case he lets it go, or if I've misunderstood him and he's actually okay with it.
some of
Because
it
he's
can
not
be-
an easy man to predict.
Some of it could be TikTok gold, couldn't it?
Yeah.
And he isn't really from your background, so you know what works. You
Well,
know-
actually, he's got a background in... what did he say?
Marketing.
Yeah,
It's
marketing.
digital
He's got a
marketing
marketing
agency.
background. So in a way, he's there.
Content,
Yeah.
less so technically,
because
but
now
marketing
it's
and
more
knowing
content, isn't
what
it?
works, he's good at.
Yeah.
But he's got to know what works content-wise pretty strongly. He certainly has strong opinions about what works.
Yeah.
And he'll tell me, we should put that out or we should get that out, you know, like...
You have any strong disagreements with him? You're trying to think
Not
when you
really
have
over content. No, not over content necessarily. We've had disagreements over things in the past, but we get on really well, I think.
Funny you should say that. Got a message from him. I have. And obviously it's in voice form. And if I'm honest with you, it is the slowest, most boring message he's ever
Oh,
sent.
you've got to do it on ×2 speed.
Well, Rich Fippin is the man behind and in front of the magic. He's my sidekick. And we've got more memories than we'd ever care to remember until maybe one day when we sit back and look at it. I really appreciate everything Rich has done for the club. And maybe the most...
I don't know if he's writing this down as he's saying it.
He's been very careful, I think, with his phrasing is how I'd imagine that.
We're halfway there. Here we go.
bizarre thing, but it's not bizarre, is how Rich is probably more in tune with me and the dynamics of Dorking. What I'm thinking when I'm thinking it than anyone else. A huge part of the team, and very thankful for everything he's done. I want to slag him off, but I can't. That's where we are. Great memories.
That's it, mate.
Yeah, it's funny hearing that because I spend more time with him than anybody, whether it's in person or on video, and I've got to know his thought process, even like cues, physical cues, verbal cues as well. I know when he's thinking and when he's buying time, or if he's gone blank and I know he's buying time to think of what to say next, whatever, I can tell. I spend a lot of time improving that for him, lots of little edits to remove ums and ahs and stuff and to make him a lot slicker. You know, you only notice that on video. In person, when he's doing a team talk, it is slick, it is fast.
Yeah.
But when you watch it on video, you're like, well, you want to segue from one section to the next a lot quicker. So I've gotten to know when he's segueing, basically. So yeah, I've
Yeah, general chat is fine. Like on the podcast, there was not many ums and ahs from him. I like I say, I don't edit it anyway because I like to keep things natural. So if he was umming and ahhing, they'd be in. But
no, he's very natural.
When he's got a camera in front of him and he's then got to talk about the match and stuff like that, I imagine everyone's has a few ums and ahs like that.
Yeah, sure. And I just I do it with anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone in an interview, I'll chop out as much as possible.
Course.
But I've got to know his quite well.
Yeah.
I've got to know his
Ticks.
rhythm and ticks and whatever. So it is funny that I've not heard him acknowledge that before. I think he knows that that's true. But he can trust me implicitly. I've got so much stuff on him. It's unbelievable. I've got an insane amount, and he knows it. And he says once he's dead, he doesn't mind. I can do what I want with it. So
Wow.
if I outlive him, the TikToks that will come out then,
Hand this down to your
are gonna
son.
make it. Yeah, there's a lot of money there. The stuff that's had to come out.
So Dorking as a club, have you seen your influence improve the club immensely as far as fans and anything like that?
I'm really naive to it. People tell me that it happens more than I realise it's happened.
I feel it has.
I remember James McShane saying to me, we were at an away game, it was at Oldham or something, and we were having the buffet, and someone said something, and he goes, "We wouldn't be here without you, Rich." And I just thought he was winding me up. I thought he was being sarcastic because Mac has got quite a dry sense of humour. And I was like, "Oh, you're having me on." He said, "No, seriously, Rich." And I was like, "Oh, blimey. Never really thought about that." I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that was a very talented team that got them promoted. But
but
I think it certainly has helped. I
got her
realise
off.
that.
Like, have you ever looked at attendance before and after? And let's not
Well,
let's not go season 2 of a bunch of amateurs. Let's look at season 3 and 4 and look at the attendance.
I remember looking at away attendances because we knew we were getting people from those areas. So got to Halifax, there's an extra 100 people came along because they're fans from the show up north, and that's the closest they could attend a game. And I remember looking at that because there were some clubs that were like, I'm in an RN or saying no, and I wanted to say to them, well, look at the impact that we're having. Letting us in is fair for a start because you're selling tickets because of us, and also is going to help sell your tickets in the future. But yes, but it's hard to delineate between or differentiate between what Dorking's success is doing to their crowds and what we're doing, because it's gone hand in hand. Mark has said to me openly, we would have expected less than 1,000 today, but this is the BOA effect. We're at 1,500 today. And I have noticed when I've looked at National League South crowds of clubs that you'd imagine being bigger, having smaller crowds. I just kind of take it for granted that Dorking are an attractive club to go and watch, to be honest.
Yeah, and they are, but you're influencing that by adding another 50% crowd on, whether you believe it or not, that's extra money, extra 50% money on. So it means gives him entitlement to pay for better players.
Yeah, true. That is true. I'm more aware of brand awareness, really, because I found out that there are Premier League footballers that watch the show. And
it's a good show to watch.
Are aware of him on TikTok probably more than anything. And that when I'm watching an England game and I think, well, I know Declan Rice watches us. It's insane to me. Like, it's totally insane because you're sitting in a little edit suite on your own. You don't imagine how many eyeballs are going to be on this thing that you're doing. You can't, because if you do, then you'll go mad.
Yeah.
So I just still make it as if I'm making it for my mate Speedy, who was always a big supporter. And when Speedy came back and said, I thought that was brilliant. Like, I want to please Speedy. I want to make sure he likes this. I don't stop to think Declan Rice is going to watch this, or Harvey Elliott.
That's the best way of looking, though, because Speedy's your datum line. He's your sort of, what's the word?
Bellwether.
Littlest paper, he's your sort of datum. And if you keep aiming for Speedy and not changing that, if you start aiming for someone else like Declan Rice, what will he like? What will he like? Then your model will change completely.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
You've got to go back to the original person that liked it. Yeah. Because that's working, isn't it?
Yeah, got to focus on that. But yeah, I've become a bit more aware of, mainly because if we're out with Mark anywhere, the fact that he gets surrounded by people for selfies, and not just youngsters who obviously love Mark, but middle-aged men will ask for selfies with him. There was a 30-year-old the other day who I could hear over my shoulder saying, "Oh my God, it's Mark White, like he's right there." And I've become much more aware of how bizarre celebrity is because of it.
But you get it as well.
Not really.
I see you having your photo taken when we were there.
I would say I get 2% of what Mark gets.
Wow.
People don't recognise me.
See, I didn't know what you looked like. My son, that's him, Dad. That's him. Go and have a chat with him. I can't. He's working, right? You know what I mean? I'll send him a message. I'll ask Mark. And Mark is so obliging with anything you're asking.
He does, yeah. He knows.
He's so obliging.
It's a good idea to do it. And I don't think anyone's ever going to walk away going, "Oh, fuck that guy. He didn't give me enough time." I've made that mistake 2 or 3 times. But people only recognise me when I'm at work, which is the busiest 3 hours of my life.
Exactly.
Between 2 and 3. Between 2 and 3 is the busiest hour of my life. I've got to go do some fan interviews, get back in time for the team talk, change some batteries, talk to the team, talk to my team. And that's when people come up to me the most.
Yeah.
And you can't have anyone walk away. I remember there was a guy, I heard him on the microphone talking on one of the cameras, talking to my cameraman. And I think he was talking about me rather than Mark. He says, "Oh, I met your boss man earlier. A bit of a prick he was. I tried to talk to him. He wouldn't give me the time of day." And I was like, was that me or Mark? And then I realised that was the guy who tried to stop me when I was running in for a team talk. And I was like, "I'm so sorry, I've got to go."
Yeah.
And he was like, "I've been paying on Patreon. I'm not paying him anymore." And I'm like, well, I've got to make sure I do stop, even though it's going to impact the show. But you just got to find a way of saying, "Look,
I'm doing
speak
this
to me
for
after
you."
Speak to me after the game. I'm happy to chat."
Yeah.
But I've not trained at this. I've never done this. I don't know how to deal with that. So Barks has really struggled with it. We were out playing a shuffleboard thing recently, and this guy was staring at us and he couldn't believe that he was playing shuffleboard next to a bunch of amateurs and Barks. He was like, I watched every episode of Barks. And I was chatting to him and asking who he plays for. Barks just went off to the bar. Like, he just gets a bit socially awkward around it because he doesn't know how much he's got to engage.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned from Mark. He does a brilliant bit of chatting to people for a couple of minutes, then going, right, I've got to go. I've got to manage this stupid team, and off he goes. Learning to be able to sum up the conversation and go,
rather than
is a skill.
More leading questions. You know, that's the hard thing. Yeah.
But showing an interest in other people too.
What's your next question?
No, have you ever got to a point where you think, I can't do this anymore? Has it got to the point where it's sort of like, this is too much pressure, I'm just constantly working? I mean, and how do you sort of stop and have a family life as well? Because you said you've got a little boy.
Yeah, I think it's a bonus that I work in the house, and so does my wife.
Right.
She works in the room next to me.
Is she involved in it at all?
She used to be a camera op, before we had the baby. She would she'd be like a backup camera op. So I taught her how to use the cameras and that. So A, it was cheaper because we didn't have to pay her, and B,
That's why I married her, because she was a photographer.
Just makes life easier.
Nothing to do with looks.
I miss it.
But no, it's hard. We haven't really fully resolved that. During the season, it's really tough. You know, it's 60 hours a week or something to make the show. And, you know, I mean, even today, like I have to prioritize. I could be at home right now making TikToks. We're behind on TikToks, and there's no end. You can just keep going.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, should I do this podcast or should I make 10 TikToks and that'll affect the income and whatever? It's like, well, no, I can't just do this.
Yeah.
You've got to call time on it here and there.
He's got a money spider on his hat. It's driving me insane.
Oh, grab it. Thanks, mate.
It's either that or an ant.
I'm very arachnophobic.
It's an ant, I think.
Okay, we'll take that.
But I mean, like even on holiday, when we're on holiday, I say to him sometimes, enough is enough. You are actually allowed to have a break as well, because otherwise it's just, I know it's people trying to get to you, and I know you have to constantly put this out and put this out and put this out. But one day, you know,
the reason we're on that holiday is because of that call.
I understand that, but there's only so much you can do before you burn out. And then you won't be able to put stuff out there because you'll be too burnt out and you won't enjoy it anymore. If you kept on doing it, it wouldn't be fun anymore, would it? And that's the whole reason.
No, I love these bollockins.
This is just marriage, isn't it?
You just made me aware that we are a slave to YouTube ultimately, because YouTube demands, you know, if we miss a week, the following week the episode numbers are much lower. So you've got to keep hitting your timescales, and if you don't, you will notice a tangible impact on your income. So you become a slave to it because you've got to keep delivering and keep feeding that.
You are clearly an expert on how to use YouTube and how to use TikTok. Well, I'm not. I haven't done my research on that. You know, the algorithms are different for both. I know that.
Yeah.
I know you can hit TikTok with a lot more shorts or a lot more videos than you can YouTube before YouTube starts getting pissed off with you posting too much, you know. And do you find that that's probably one of your biggest successes, learning those algorithms?
Learned it organically, I think. And I'm obviously on stuff like Reddit, and people have all of these crazy harebrained theories as to how this stuff works, because it's not open. TikTok will never tell you. There are some very obvious things. One guy said to me, he's quite a successful TikTok guy, if you can get a hook in the first few seconds and not answer that until the end, then people will stay. It stands to reason that if people watch more of the video, it will be more successful if they want to watch it again, because it's short enough and it's like, oh shit, I want to see that again, you know, whatever. There's a lot of little things you can do. We don't know for a fact that that's how TikTok works, but you can guess. I honestly think it's if you start with something that you find interesting, go back to the Speedy thing, if you come up with something that you know is fun and interesting, don't worry about the rest. If it works, it works.
Yeah.
And so for all of these people saying, I remember reading someone the other day who said, I'm being jailed by TikTok, my stats have dropped. And I looked at the videos and thought, well, these are rubbish. You know, like there's only a handful of videos I've put out where I've been surprised by a lack of interest. For the most part, they do really, really well because we make sure that they're good little videos.
That's it.
Because you sit there and take the time to actually know, and you know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's become second nature. I know what works.
And you had to teach yourself that as well, because obviously running the company, you have to film, edit, employ people. And then again, it's this whole social media platform that 10, 20 years ago didn't exist. It wasn't there. So you had to almost teach yourself how to be a content creator and to put all this online as well.
I was chatting to JB, the chief exec, yesterday at Dorking, and telling him I've got a VAT register, now I've got to claim back the VAT and stuff. And he was like, let me help you. You do not need to be thinking about that stuff. And I'm not a businessman. And I said to my accountant, I don't understand 90% of what you say to me. Here's some money. Can you just take care of this for me? And they haven't quite done that. And I said to JB, I just need him to do this stuff for me. And he said, well, you copy me and I'll take care of that for you. It'd be amazing if you could, because I just don't have time for that. We want to buy a house, and they were like, we need your last year's records, and so I had to fast track the 23, 24 accounts. What does that even mean? I don't know.
Because in a one-man band, you are meant to be all these things, aren't you? You're meant to be the accountant, the content creator, the filmer, the editor, everything. But you can't physically do it.
It sounds like you're sorted, but I know our accountant's excellent, and we've only just started to use them. Excellent accountant. But you
needed to be proactive is what I've discovered, not just reacting to stuff that comes in.
You've got to be on top of it. We've done our own accounts for the last 15 years, and this year is the first time we're handing it over to someone else. But and you realise how much you haven't claimed for as well.
I don't know. I claim for a lot. I realised the other day that the reason why I can spend so much through the business is because my hobby is my job. So I'm not buying myself gadgets for the house. I'm buying myself gadgets to work with.
Exactly like us.
So I don't need to pay myself a huge amount, because what I'd spend it on is just hobby stuff anyway. So that works out.
So when it comes to YouTube and things, there's times when I think, we're never going to be a success on here. But then I think, what is our goal? Our goal is we enjoy doing this, don't we? So in theory, it doesn't matter if it doesn't build up. And if it builds up, that's fine. We're not making a living from this as such. This is our way of getting people to know us, so they can go to our other business and hire us for something else. You know what I mean? That's the way I've decided to do it. But there's times I wish, like I say, when we got different guests on, it's never going to be that one niche where everyone's going to come back. Like they come back to Bunch of Amateurs, they're never going to come back to this every single week. And I think we just got to accept that. That's the way it is. But on that note, to try and get people catchy, where's this? We asked our guests. Have you got loads more questions?
No, I've got a few more questions. I've got quick fire questions.
Sorry, he's got some TikToks to do, right?
I can talk about myself for ages in 5 minutes.
So if you had to film in a Bunch of Amateurs style, a professional club, who would you film?
Oh, Cheltenham.
Well, it's Charlton. When I've been to the Valley since doing this, only a handful of times, but I was with Barks once and we sat quite near the dugout, and I was like, this is no different. I could be sitting right there on the side and we could do the same thing.
Have you approached them?
To jump in, they're doing a Welcome to Wrexham style thing now.
Well, have they? Are they?
I've heard through the grapevine someone's already collared it.
I've had a conversation with someone at Charlton about something that was Charlton adjacent, and I went to the Valley a couple of weeks ago to have a meeting with him, and I don't know if that's going to go ahead now because Charlie is left. What was Charlie, the director? Charlie Methven.
He left recently, didn't he? Yeah.
And I know it was relating to him, so I don't know if that's still going to go.
Yeah, because it was like This Is Sunderland. Was it This Is Sunderland, the other thing?
So Sunderland Till I Die is the godfather of these things.
Yes, and then Welcome to Wrexham.
That's what I've been copying for the last few years, really. Yeah. I watched that and was like, how many cameras are they using? Where are they going? What are they filming? Welcome to Wrexham, we worked alongside once, and briefly a little bit actually the first time, but when we went there, we dealt a lot with the producers and the cameramen and that. They taught me quite a bit, actually. They were really, really good to us. They relit one of our interviews, and we've done it that way ever since. Right. And that's a grand a day cinematographer telling us what to do. So it's like, you're going to listen to that guy.
Yeah.
They were brilliant. And the producer who's since left, I can text him anytime and ask him a question. So Milosh, lovely guy. I think I don't know if it's so much the level of the club or what that would motivate me. I'd love to do a Premier League one, but I just don't think you would ever get the authenticity, as you put it, with the Premier League clubs. I don't think they can be as honest and open.
They're trained on how to interview for starters, you know.
And I think they'll be really picky of what you put out there as
Exactly
well. So
that.
you wouldn't get that.
I've got no qualms about saying that. I think All or Nothing is purely propaganda for the clubs that they work with. And yeah, you get some good insights. You get to see Arteta briefly in a team talk. But what they do is so completely different. My attitude is, how can we tell a story of a match day? What happened and why it happened? That's not what those big docs do.
No.
They're telling the story of a season, really, and sort of why it happened. But for me, the most satisfying thing is pulling out a 3 or 4 beat story and finding those beats throughout the day. And that's the toughest bit about editing, because you go through and chop this big long thing down
Into,
but where do you even start? And I said to Archie the other day, maybe we should start with the final team talk, because we know what the payoffs are then, and then we can find them throughout the episode. That might make more sense.
It's true.
There's a really good bit that I got from the guys that write South Park, and they were saying your story beats should be therefore or but.
That's it. I've seen that video.
Yeah, but not and then this. And I think a lot of what we do can be and then this. If you can make it therefore, then the story is going to connect and make sense. And that bit is motivated by the bit before it. And that's something that I really want to try and remember, because then you get a much more interesting story. I'd rather tell a movie type story that happens to be about football than just showing what Sky Sports do, which is the football match, and then trying to tell you why something happened. But they don't actually have any insight, because they're not asking the people involved. Whereas I will text Mark and Ant Sheldon, who is and he helps me every week. He's basically the head scout, and say, what formations were they playing? Why did they change? What was the motivation behind that substitution? And Ant will tell me straight away.
And then you'll narrate,
and that's
you'll
for
narrate
your
that technique
narration.
over the top.
And then that goes into the narration.
I also like the fact that you interview away fans before the match as well.
Yeah, you've got to get the context of what we're up against. Otherwise, they just become like another one that I've been influenced by is Escape to Victory. They just become the Germans in a black kit.
Yeah,
and
the enemy every time.
Yeah, just like NPCs or something.
Yeah.
So it's much more interesting. And there are times when I've finished those interviews with those guys and I want them to have a good day.
Yeah,
I don't want Dorking to lose, but I'm also, because they're like, I'm really nervous about this. We don't want to get relegated, and I'm really sympathetic to them, you know.
So with the narration, do you have anything written down beforehand, or are you watching the feedback? Oh, sorry, you're watching the footage that you've actually filmed and just working.
Got a rough idea what you're going to say.
When I used to do all the episodes totally on my own, I would have a good sense as I went, because I've been chopping the game down.
Yeah.
Now that I have someone, used to be Jack, now Archie, give me that match, I will watch the section he's left in, figure out what happened, and then write a line, record it, move on to the next section. The other day with Archie's stuff, I thought he was putting superfluous stuff in. I kept deleting sections, and then realised he's done a really good job of paying that off. Undo, go back again. Right, I've got recording narration for that now. If I come up with a line, which happens occasionally that can be applicable, actually there's a line that someone said in a completely different realm, and it was John Oliver actually. It was such a good line, I can repurpose that John Oliver line to something that Noah McManus has done, so I'm going to do that. But so I do have a notepad on my phone if I come up with something that I think could be funny. Angus Dayton said something years and years ago on Have I Got News For You, must have been 30 years ago, that it was one of the funniest lines ever, and I've got to work that in. It's such a good line, and that's been in the back of my mind for ages. But mostly, no, I just sit there and I write, and I realised there were no jokes in the last 2 weeks. I've not been in a good mood, so there were just no jokes in there.
That's all you get.
And I'm like, and because everything got nicked, and I just wasn't up for it. I made a few jokes the next time I narrated about chavvy thieves, but if I'm not in the mood to write a joke, I won't write a joke, and I certainly won't force it. And if I'm in the mood for writing loads, I'll write loads, and I get a bit of stick for some of them, and I'm like, it's what I felt like doing. I'm writing it. Would Speedy laugh? Then it's going in, you know. You know, you can't do this thing by committee. You know, you're trying to please everyone, it will come out as a little Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, of course.
We get a lot of people saying you should do X, Y, Z, and I'm like, well, if you like the show, then just like it for what it is. You know, and tell us how to make it.
So obviously we are in England. What about the weather commitments? Because you must have had to stand and sit through some shitty weather.
I like it when it's cold. I like snuggling up in my big coat and.
It is a big coat.
I've spent a lot of money on a hot chocolate cup that reheats the hot chocolate through an app.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I'm very excited about that. The rain is fucking hard work because, rain and technology are not good bedfellows, and wind is actually worse a lot of the time, particularly on the microphones. Yeah. And the first time a camera broke was because I left it outside and the wind blew it over. That was at Cherrywood. So, it's tough. It's tough. But it's probably only about 20% of the time. The worst part of the rain stuff is when you get home, you've got to empty everything out onto the floor on towels and dry it out. It's a frustrating experience.
But that was all I had. Sorry.
Is it all you had? So, foreign people, foreign followers, do you get all over the world?
Yeah. We've had Peru, Australia. Got quite a few.
Don't talk to her about Peru. She's done the Inca Trail.
You need one of those maps with all your followers.
Yeah.
She goes on about the Inca Trail all the pissing time.
Quite a few in America. All over the place. That's insane. There's a guy in I forget where he is. I've forgotten whereabouts in the States he is. A guy called Neil, who has sent us equipment a couple of times. He sent us a couple of GoPros once, and then after all my stuff got nicked, he the next day I got an email from him saying, "Don't worry, care package on the way," and he sent 4 brand new GoPros over to get us going again.
Oh my God.
That was incredible.
I offered him some cameras. He said, "No, I'm all right now."
Yeah, but
I've seen the shit you use.
You said borrow. You didn't say give.
No,
Yeah, that's true. No, I mean, you're one of many people that were so incredibly generous. It was such a positive experience ultimately when we lost everything, because the amount of people that came out to help, the amount of people that came out to support us and say, "Don't worry, you'll get going again." And someone else launched a GoFundMe on our behalf. And
that just goes to show how good the show is, though. People want the show to carry on. So.
Yeah, and one guy, there was a debate. I had a debate over whether we would keep a GoFundMe, because if the insurance pays out, what do I do with this money? I had about 100 people come back to me after I said that on a video saying, "That's not why we're giving you to the GoFundMe. We want to get you going." I mean, the insurance still hasn't paid out. I don't know if it will. I think it will. But it's a month now. So we wouldn't have shot the last 5 games.
What did you get up to on the GoFundMe, or don't you want to
12 or 13,000, I think.
Wow.
And the equipment was brand new, the equipment's worth just under 30,000. So we're at a point now where we used to be able to do 2 solid shoots at the same day, or 1 amazing shoot where we used all of our equipment in one go. And actually the day it got nicked was the first time I had it all together in one place. I've never had all of the cameras in one place before. So now we're at a point where we can do 1 decent shoot. But if we want to do, say, Barks next year, or BOAFC that we're talking about, something like that, we can't do it currently. So we need the insurance. And if we don't get the insurance, we're going to have to push the GoFundMe and just hope that people want to see a second show.
So you're doing BOAFC? You got your own team?
We've talked about it. We haven't set it up yet. I'm trying to convince Barks to do it. Barks and Mike, they are the safest pair of hands I could hope to use on something like that. I know that they're interested. Barks has got other career things on his mind. Failing that, we've got some options to do. I want to go lower league. I want to go step 7, Sunday league, something like that. I think that the lower, the better the contrast with the equipment and stuff. Taking 24K cameras to a Sunday league park game for me is funny. So I think we'd have a lot of fun with that. One of
a kids football match.
Not kids necessarily.
Yeah,
like pub,
kids are a struggle, but
pub teams and things.
Pub teams. Barks's idea was, why don't we find a pub called Dog and Duck FC and just take over that? Yeah, because he refers to Dog and Duck FC, as a lot of people do, as like a term for any lower league side.
Dog and Duck. Yeah,
that's a really nice idea. Or can we reboot Cherrywood? Can we go back there because the team disbanded? The club was 100 years old or whatever, and it doesn't exist anymore. Can we go back there? We've got some ideas.
But you don't have an end to Dorking as such.
We do it 1 year at a time. So, and every summer Mark says, I don't think it's doing that well, because he doesn't want to pay me any more money. So we negotiate every year. And every year I insist that they negotiate earlier. They never do. So we actually had a brief conversation about it yesterday. So we do need to talk about what next year looks like. At the moment, I don't see any reason for either of us to want to end it. We've had we've had new stories every year. We've not had 2 seasons that are the same ever. So I don't think it's getting stale. Mark said to me a couple of years ago, like, I'm worried that we're looking like an advert on the side of the road and people aren't really seeing it anymore. And I said, well, we're on the side of the A23 right now. We should get on the side of the M25. And I still don't think we are. I think that...
Oh, we've still got loads more headroom to go.
I think so. I think you consider the amount of people that like watching football stuff. I feel like there's a huge audience we still haven't reached
100%. 100%.
So I think we just got to keep going.
Yeah.
And I think...
Because what's your subscribers on YouTube?
YouTube's
similar to us, isn't it?
180.
Yeah, similar to ours.
Just behind you.
Yeah.
But they're very consistent. You know, like you say, you have peaks and troughs depending on your guests and thumbnails and titles and whatever. Apart from a dip at Christmas, we have been very, very consistent. Just adding a few thousand here and
Yours
there.
will 100% surpass ours by miles. It really will, because it's a tight niche.
Yeah, and people stick. So, I think there's a long way to go yet. But I don't think we should ever be wedded to one club, and we are a little bit at the moment. In the old days, I was always insistent that we should have a second team on the go, because it's a bunch of amateurs. It's not Dorking Uncovered.
Yeah.
So I really, really do want to have more going on than just that one thing.
I can understand that.
So will that be, do you think, like logically, will you have to then get a second team in to do that? Or would you rather do it yourself?
We did Rains Park last year as our second team, and Jack was running that show basically on his own. I only went down and filmed 1 or 2 games. He did a really good job. That didn't last for whatever reason, but that's how we would do it. We'd increase the WhatsApp group. There's about 9 of us in the group at the moment. I'd push that up to 12 or 13 or whatever, so we can have 2 teams of 4 on each shoot. But it gets expensive.
What's your goal? Is your goal to sit back and have everyone else film it eventually?
That is kind of the dream, yeah. I'd feel like I'm missing out.
Because you're literally in the wedding industry like us. You've lost your Saturdays.
Yeah.
You know, and you've got a young one as well, who eventually will be going to school, but hopefully you're going to be in a position where you haven't...
Well, I work for myself, so I see the advantages of that. Like,
of course,
I can take him on a Wednesday, so we don't have to do nursery on a Wednesday, save a bit of money there. But yeah, I think it would be brilliant to just oversee a production company, basically. That would be amazing. But I still haven't got to the point where I would just let someone else do the Dorking stuff. When I'm not in the dressing room, I feel like I'm missing out. You know, I don't feel like I'm part of the team particularly. The guys do make me feel welcome. I'm brilliantly with nearly all of the players, if not all of the players. I do feel like I'm on the periphery. I don't feel like I could jump on them when they're celebrating. I'm not there.
Of course.
But
you've been away with them, though, haven't you? Didn't I see something? You went to America with them or something?
I went with the gaffer and a couple of guys from the club, and Dan Pybus was the only player.
What's that, like mid-season, pre-season sort of?
That was in November, December, I think it was. We've got a sponsor. The club have got a sponsor, and they've sponsored the show once or twice. And they're New York based, basically, and they invited us over to meet some American fans in a pub on a Monday night. So when we went over and did that, it was a few days. It was tough. Mark took us to a few nightclubs, and it was the Sunday, the day before we were supposed to do the meet and greet. We were drinking from about 11 in the morning. It was like a stag do.
Yeah.
And they're Irish, the guys we went to see. So you can imagine going to Irish pubs and stuff.
Yeah. We've done a few Irish pubs in New York, haven't we? Yeah.
We ended up in, I think, the greatest nightclub in existence that night that overlooked the Empire State Building.
Wow.
And that was that. Then we had to work the next day. That was tough.
You're all sitting there going,
There's a photo of us having breakfast the next day, and we all look like we're all dying. But it was good fun. No, I've done a bunch of things.
It's cool. You're doing something. You're doing a job that you love, aren't you?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a job really. But I've done the darts and stuff with the players. I've got drunk with them plenty of times. But funny thing is, you think, there's a lot of pressure going out with these guys, and then you realise they're footballers. They don't drink much. I can out drink footballers.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be drinker.
Yeah, because health-wise and fitness-wise, they're up there, aren't they?
Yeah,
even non-league.
Oh, they're athletes now. Yeah.
And how many are part-timers in that team? All of them?
I'd say there's probably about 20-30% have got other jobs now.
Right.
The rest are dedicated to football.
Yeah.
They're either earning just about enough or they do coaching on the side and stuff like that. People like Niall McManus, he's an accountant, and Briggsie's an engineer. I think the guys that have come up with the team are more
Now,
likely to have jobs.
Briggsy, am I right in saying Briggsy came up with a team?
Yeah, he's
My
the
son
longest
Ryan
serving
said
player,
he's been there forever.
like 8 or 9 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And Macca as well.
Yeah. He's still, the fact that he's still getting in the team is amazing, man.
Yeah. Well,
He's a right winger, isn't he? I think.
Yes, Briggsy could always have played a higher level, as far as I understand it. His career, I think he kind of had a choice. He might need to correct me on this, but I think he kind of had a choice between going for it as a fully pro or probably earning more money long term as an engineer. So I think he chose the latter. I think it's like that. But yeah, he could at his peak, and he's had to come back from a terrible injury, and I don't think he's quite hit his peak, but at his peak he was unplayable, probably the best player in non-league football.
Right.
Absolutely incredible winger. Even though everyone knew what he was going to do, no one could stop him. Runs down the right, cuts in.
He's got a bit of bulk on him and all for football,
he's
right?
powerful,
Yeah.
Powerful player.
Yeah. Have you ever had any of them come up to you and said, "You make me look a right cock on that last episode"?
That sounds familiar. I'm trying to think of an example. It sounds like someone's probably said that to me. I'm pretty
Is that a
careful.
phone going off?
Your phone's going off.
Sorry. I was like, what is that noise? Oh, they've stopped now. They've given up. My phone goes off all the time, Rich. Sorry.
I check with them if I think it might be a problem.
Yeah, because you do maybe a little bit of a piss take section, and you just check that. You say,
well, if I'm saying the percent, no, I don't ask him. But if they've got bollocked in the dressing room, anything like that, anything that I think is an invasion of their privacy, then I'll say, "Are you okay with this?" I remember one of the first
or even
times,
a detriment on their future career.
yeah.
maybe.
So Nick Wheeler used to get it a lot in the early days, and I remember sending him one, and he said, "I'm fine with it," but my agent said, "Mark's called me lazy, and that's not a good look for me if I have to find a club in 2 months' time because it's near the end of the season."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Yeah, do you know what? It's not that important. There's no one thing in the show that in an episode that would be that important that it's worth risking anything like that." So, no, very careful. Harrison Fulks has taken a lot this season, and he got a bollocking, and I showed it to him. He said, "Look, that's not ideal. It's a bit shit, but you know, whatever it happened, I'm fine with it. You can put it up."
Okay.
And one player I remember saying, it was another goalkeeper actually, Sam. He said, "If you hadn't asked me, I'd have been furious. But as soon as you've asked me, fine, you can release that." That was one of our biggest early TikToks when Mark said to him, when you gave the ball away in the last minute, if they'd have scored, that would have been your last ever game.
Yeah.
And everyone burst out laughing. "No, I'm fucking serious, Sam."
Yeah.
No, I'm joking, but I'm serious.
Is he hard to read like that, Mark?
No, there's
Like,
no.
would you
when
not
he's-
know if he meant it or not?
No, generally speaking, you know when he's being deadly serious.
Right.
Maybe there's a bit of passive aggression there, or maybe he thinks I've gone too far, and he'll
And then
just
he'll bring it back,
and then
rein it back in.
He'll chill it out a little bit.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just
yeah.
Kind of
That's
puncture
that's
the
the
tension.
mark of a caring bloke.
He's
to read
brilliant.
on.
He's brilliant at man management. It's
Yeah.
of all of his skills, and he's got a lot of them. His man management is. He knows how to deal with individual players, I think. And we get a lot of comments like, "I couldn't play for this guy." And I'm like, I'm in that dressing room. Every single one of those people wants to play for him.
Would you have him as Charlton manager?
Oh, in a heartbeat, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course you would, yeah. That'd be brilliant.
Because of his quality as a manager?
Yes. I think it took all of us a bit of time to realise how good he is at reading what's going on. I remember there was a training session once when he just kept saying to a player, you're right. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. And no one else noticed anything. And I spoke to the player afterwards, said, "Yeah, I've got an injury." And but Mark was on it like
Mark
a
knew.
hawk.
Yeah.
Mark never knew because the injury cleared up by the match. But
I know they say the fans are the 12th man, but he's the 12th man in that team. Like
The
they kicked off.
dedication.
No, they kicked 100% from the whistle, right? They kicked off. It ended up within 10 seconds, the other team's in Slough's goalkeeper's hands, and he went ballistic. "Referee, that's more than 20 seconds."
yeah.
Like, because the goalkeeper's got to get rid of it. It is 20 seconds, isn't it? The goalkeeper's got to get rid of it. Was it 10? Oh, was it 6?
Technically it's 6, but they give them about 15 to 20.
15 to 20
Right.
seconds. And yeah, that's what he's shouting out. "Ref, that's 20 seconds. Because Mark is a stickler for the rules, which it should be.
He's in that instance, he's reading that the other team are running a slow game and they
Yeah.
want to do it from the very start because
Yeah.
that's the best way of dealing with them.
And, like-
And he wants the referee to understand this isn't just a keeper goalkeeper on one occasion taking
No,
ages.
this is him doing it from the
this
start.
is a plan.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
he's
This is
got
like
to
the
push back.
first minute of the game. He is shouting at the ref, telling him, he's 100%.
He's focused.
I don't know how he's got his voice.
No, I don't. I'd be totally out of a voice.
Does
by
he
then.
ever sound croaky at the end of a game?
Only a couple of times,
Yeah.
and that's
He
probably
probably
because he was
doesn't
ill.
talk for the rest of the week, and he just.
Yeah, trust me, he talks. The voice notes come thick and fast. What I think is the most telling thing is how he literally controls where they're going to play the ball.
Right.
When he says switch it, when he says other side, they do it.
Yeah.
You know, if
Yeah,
he's
they
saying
listen.
go back across, if they've seen a lot of the time, and I've asked him, do you sometimes pretend you can't hear? Oh yeah, I just pretend I didn't hear him. You know, but there's a lot of times, particularly the guys in front of the dugout, they have to go back, they have to go home and start again and whatever. It really is like a PlayStation controller sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really in charge. Not so much when they're in the final third, but certainly around the halfway line, building the play.
Yeah. Because they know they're going to get a bollocking if they don't. You know, that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Right. What was I going to say? I come up with an idea.
Oh, Jesus.
Is this a pitch?
Have you thought about stroke? Are you allowed to mic up every player?
I don't think we're allowed. The practicalities of it would be tough. You need to get some very good
Athletic
mics.
sort of mics that can take a bit of punishment.
We mic'd up Sammy El Abd once.
I'm getting weird stuff coming. It's my phone going. Sorry, I'm getting weird stuff going through my mic. It's all of a sudden started. Now I don't need Mark's message anymore. I'm turning this on airplane mode.
They do that in rugby sometimes. Don't
Yeah,
they?
I think
might
they have. Yeah.
I don't know if it's the players. I'm not really a big rugby fan, but I don't know if it's the players or if it's just
The referees are on mic all the
referees.
time.
Yeah.
And I think they announce stuff to the stadium and stuff, don't they? I've mic'd up a referee a few times in friendlies and charity matches. We mic'd up a referee in a pre-season friendly, and it went down brilliantly. The comments were so supportive of the ref.
What do you want?
Sorry, I'm getting so much feedback now.
From what?
I don't know.
Just now?
Sure, Mike. It's gone. Or it's either when you moved your phone. Sorry, it's going
I
mental.
literally just turned it on.
This is all staying in. This is
Okay, fine. No, warts and all.
Is it this?
It's all right now. Leave it now. It's all right, isn't it? Why are you adjusting it now? Right, sorry.
So we mic'd up Delhi, the referee, and the feedback that we got and the comments we got was so supportive of Delhi and ripping it out of the players for the way they were talking to him. And I just wish that the FA would let me do that. They never will.
Did you ever see that Arsenal game once?
Yeah. Referee! Tony had him screaming,
Yeah.
and it was
It's
embarrassing
constant abuse.
for the players.
Constant abuse.
Yeah, it's totally embarrassing for the players, I think, and I think it was kind of embarrassing for the players when we did it. I did mic up Sammy he went on for the last 5 minutes of his last game, and I got a little bit. Again, it was the mic went out of sync and stuff, so it was a bit of a struggle. But I had him controlling the defence, telling everybody what to do. That was really good, and I'd love to do that more often. But I don't have mics that's small enough, I think, to get away with it.
Yeah, it's having the mic that would do it.
Yeah, but I would. There were players that would do it without a doubt. But yeah, it's a struggle to practically make that work. But I think Mark and I are supposed to go and meet some referees at a referee thing at Wembley soon, and Mark's going to do a talk and a Q&A and stuff, and I'm hoping that I can talk to somebody there and say, let me do more. Because and Mark said to me before, it'd be brilliant to do a documentary on referees. I totally agree with him. If we can show what it's like for them, then
Surely, a ref has got a piece on him anyway. And I couldn't believe that non-league had that. Actually.
Yeah, step 1 and 2.
Surely there's an output on that you could take a recording
Yeah,
from.
you'd think so, wouldn't you? But they just don't want that. They don't do it at any level, do they? I mean, it takes them a month to release VAR stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
yeah, which is sad.
And it would all be approved. I'd have to get approval, and they'd be taking bits out here and there.
Yeah,
I don't like doing that.
No, it's a shame. It's a shame.
That's a good idea, though. Well done.
Thanks. Right, what we usually do for our guests, there's a part of me that wants to try your glasses on because I look like the geezer from Up, and if I've got them glasses on, I am definitely the geezer from Up. But we give our guests 4 of these to choose, and then they're just random shite questions.
Okay.
So pick any 4 you want.
You're really big in this podcast, that random shite question.
No one's listening.
What's the weirdest food you've ever eaten, and did you like it? Blimey.
God, I haven't heard that question, have you?
No.
That looks really warm, that bit of paper. It's never been read.
I know what yours is.
No, weirdest food.
Simon's is bird's nest soup
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
in
blimey.
Hong Kong.
I
It's a
thought it
delicacy.
was like ambrosia cream rice. That's what it looked like.
Was it good?
Bird's nest soup is actually real bird's nest, made from the saliva of a bird.
And people go up these mountains and die.
$40.
Wow.
$40.
It's like a delicacy out there.
It wasn't weird food. I had my old boss Mike took me to a really expensive restaurant once, and it was a tasting menu.
Oh.
I don't know what it was. It was some kind of fish, and it didn't taste good at all. But when it was paired with the sherry it went with, it was the single most incredible taste experience I've ever had. Yes, and it was like food science. It was almost like Heston Blumenthal level food science, because when you mix these two things, it was like
amazing.
I just want that in my mouth for the rest of my life.
Wow.
So that's the closest
I
I've
like
come.
Stilton, but I like it better when it's got a grape with it.
Okay,
It's a similar thing, but on a lower down scale.
on a budget.
But
On a budget.
Your
Okay.
chav level.
chav level is like beans and cheese, isn't it?
If aliens landed on Earth and invited you to leave, would you go? Why?
How many cameras would you take?
22.
It depends if I was allowed to come back.
I said that.
If I'm not coming back, if it's Close Encounters style,
They might come back if they make another one. You just don't know, do you?
Spielberg hates sequels, so I don't think I'd be coming back. So no, I wouldn't leave my wife and son. But if I was single, yes, 100%, I'd go.
Perfect. Thrilling these, aren't they? Oh, that looks like an
Who wrote all of these? These you two?
ChatGPT.
Oh, really?
So give us 20 random questions.
What's the strangest thing you've seen while travelling?
Wait, that is so broad, that one. Travelling where?
Mark naked, probably.
No, I've not seen that, fortunately.
Oh, I have.
Strangest thing I've seen while travelling. Well, on away games, travelling to away games, Charlie Carter has a tendency to get undressed and do things in the dressing room. So Charlie Carter's windmills, maybe.
Ah, right. I know what a windmill is. Yeah.
Why haven't we seen that on it?
Well, Charlie jokes about that all the time.
Imagine a sensor thing going around like that.
People keep saying to me, OnlyFans BOA or BOA After Dark, as I'd call it. Loads more money to be made there, I think. Yeah, there's some funny stuff happens in the dressing room after games. But no, it's all on camera, but I delete it. I don't even want it on the hard drives in case anyone hacks in. I don't want anyone hacking in and getting hold of stuff that could get us into trouble. So
Dorking player strips in dressing room. You're like, oh shit.
I'm still getting over a terabyte a game, if I'm honest. It stresses me out. Coming out in hives just thinking of that.
it's a lot of stuff. Is that another one?
Yeah, go on then.
Okay. What's the most ridiculous argument you've ever been a part of?
These are good. I've not heard them.
Professionally
heard
or
these ones.
privately?
Anything you want.
Privately, I was talking about this yesterday, funnily enough. My wife and I playing the card game Shithead.
I've never heard of shithead.
You might have a different name for it. 3 cards down, 3 face up, 3 in your hand.
Getting the best hand.
No, you've got to. So let's say there's a 3 down. You've got to put 3 or higher, and if you can't go, you pick up the deck that's down, and you end up with a bigger hand, and you've got to get rid of your cards.
I think I know what you're on about. And I think it might have been called shithead.
It's a really good
I
game.
played it for a long time.
And it was during lockdown. I went to Bath to film Mark Dorking in the playoffs before we did episodes. This was when we were doing a film, and Bath wouldn't let me film, so we sneaked a camera in, and I went in as a media and sat like this from miles away, just trying to film Mark, had a mic on or whatever. We only used a little bit because he got himself sent off. We used it later to explain why he was on a ban, and I can't tell you that part. Anyway, Claire and I had dinner that night, and we played Shithead at the pub, and I picked up the cards when I didn't need to, and I'm like, there's no rule that says you can't. I didn't want to get rid of the best card, so we fell out very badly over that. I sat at a different table for a while. That's the silliest argument. It was genuinely serious. She was furious. She hates losing. So she was absolutely furious. I was furious that she hadn't set the rules before then saying I'd broken the rules. So that's probably the silliest one. Actually, with Dorking would be the infamous Southend situation when they said that I wasn't allowed in the dressing room, but I could film the game. And I said, well, the dressing room is core of the episodes. So the week before when I told Mark, I was filming on the coach to Oxford, and Mark came up with the idea on camera, why don't we just sign you up as a player? We haven't got enough subs. We've got so many injuries.
So are you an official player?
At that point, he signed me up. I was 42 years old, so my squad number was 42. I was named as a sub, so I was on the programme.
Wicked.
They announced my name as the subs.
Imagine if they had a load of injuries and you had to go on. That would have been
If
hilarious.
they won the league that year and the last game was a dead rubber, he was going to put me on.
Really?
Which I was dreading because I'm an overweight 42-year-old guy.
It's been so funny.
If I'd got a kick of the ball, it would have been hilarious. But I'm not a good footballer.
If they'd won, you would have got like a trophy and a medal in.
Yeah, probably.
So
Yeah.
was you substitute goalkeeper?
Imagine that. No, I'd have been left wing or something, I think he said. So anyway, I was named on the bench, which meant I could go in the dressing room. I don't think Southend liked that particularly. They said that I wasn't allowed to film on the bench. So I was on the bench with Sammy and that, and pulled out my iPhone and filmed a bit. My camera was on the floor down there, the Ronin, and Sammy just bullied me into using it. So just use your fucking camera, mate. So I picked that up, and it was cheeky. It was out of order, honestly. And then at half time, they called me in to another room, the media guys, and said, you're not allowed to film. And we're kicking you out. You've broken all of our agreements. I could see their point. But I was like, look, we're just pushing our luck a little bit. And he was like, no, don't be like that. You fucking pushed it. You got really aggressive. And he said, and it was so pointless. It was so unnecessary. It didn't need to go through any of this. We were getting a good episode. We were making them look good. Like it was, and they won the game ultimately. But then I said, can I go and tell Mark? And they were like, no. I said, can I go and get my bags then? And he was like, yeah. Of course, Mark was next to my bags. So I said, Mark, they're kicking me out. He said, who is? And I know the words well because we've got it all on mic. He went back in and said, why are you kicking him out? I said, he's broken all of the agreements. He's like, Mark was like, fine, he won't film then. He's like, no, he's kicking him out. He shouldn't have done that. They swore first. So Mark's response was to swear back. And then Mark basically offered them out. And then he said, don't you fucking swear at me. And Mark said, you swore first, you fucking idiot. You used the F word, you fucking idiot, like that. It was brilliant. It was such a ridiculously pointless argument, but it was brilliant for Mark to have my back. I'd never really seen that happen before. And Mark convinced them to, and actually because they were kicking out a substitute, Mark said, you'll forfeit the game. Because he's a player. You can't kick out a player off of the bench.
God, he knows the rules inside and out, that boy, doesn't he?
And they said, and they argued with him and said, he's not a player, look at him. And Mark said, what are you judging him for? And I'm like, I am here, I can hear all of this. So they had to let me back on the bench, but without a camera. And then Mark said, good, if you want to get something, just be nice about it. You're going to take the camera, that's fine. So I got back on the bench and that was that. But I wasn't allowed to film from the bench. And then they said, you can't use any of the footage you have shot. So we did a shout out to artists and got artist impressions of Mark on the bench and used them in the episode. Every time I cut to Mark, it's a drawing of Mark.
It's like the cool ones.
Yeah, exactly like that, yeah. We had 3 or 4 people send in some all different types of drawing. And we used that instead.
That's
so,
excellent.
Southend of Times or something that was called, Southend of the Road, something like that. In that episode, that's when you can see Mark in animated form, literally. That was. But in terms of arguments, that was so stupid.
Wow.
Brilliant. That's
We had one this morning, didn't we? Because you whipped
do you know, I was thinking of that argument. She hates the old towel whip.
God, it winds me up.
Yeah, that's quite painful. I
I know,
understand that,
but
yeah.
I don't feel anything. And I don't do it often, but today's was beautiful. It was a
Right
perfect.
on my leg. Oh, I hated it. I actually went in the hall, had a little cry, came back. Didn't talk
I
to
feel
him.
bad now. I didn't think it was that bad for you to have a little cry. I didn't realise it. I'm sorry then, I
Then I came back,
apologise.
didn't talk to him, and then he was making a bacon sandwich. So I started ruining it, like putting my finger in the
turning it
bread,
off.
turning bits off, hiding the bread.
You had every right.
Oh dear, I didn't realise you cried about it. I feel bad now.
No.
I have to not do that for a couple of days.
Claire's got ticklish thighs. I tickled her thighs and she went ballistic. Like serious, like this is almost abusive. I'm like, oh, it's just tickling. This is what couples do.
Yeah.
So now I can't tickle her thighs anymore.
She lets me. Sorry. On that note,
Can't get out of that one. Walk straight into it.
I really appreciate you taking the time out to come and see us.
Thank you
Brilliant.
so
Good
much.
fun.
Really enjoyed it, and definitely come and say hello to you. We're going to definitely go and see Dorking again, me and Ryan, because we really enjoyed it. Really felt welcome there. Really impressed with the club. Even impressed with the car park outside. It's perfect, that car
Yeah,
park.
it's cheap and it's big and it's right next to the
Yeah, and Dorking's a nice little area. I don't think I've ever been there.
Lovely place, yeah. Really lovely place.
Really nice little area. So definitely be there and definitely come and say hello. Do you want to tell people that aren't on Bunch of Amateurs or aren't subscribed how they can find Bunch of Amateurs?
To camera? So do this to camera?
Whatever you well, I don't give a shit. Do whatever you want. You do it naked if you want. Or do a windmill while I talk about it.
Yeah, I don't think I can. I don't think I'm capable of that.
Look how on the spot he is.
I never tried.
Something he's been selling for 5 years.
Bunch of Amateurs YouTube channel. If you want to join as a member and see all of the behind the scenes stuff and the extended episodes, you go to bunchofamateurs.com and we've explained how to do it all there. Otherwise, find us on YouTube. If you search for it, spelling it AMACHERS, for some reason, that seems to be more successful. It would appear a lot of people can't spell amateurs. So, you'll find us.
I'm one of them. Yeah, brilliant. Can I try your glasses?
Oh, I suppose so. I forgot I'm wearing the big
Where
ones.
are my glasses? Oh my God, you are.
That
Is Carl, isn't it? From up. God, your eyes are worse than mine.
Yeah, they're bad. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. And like, share, subscribe. You know, I don't care if you don't, but which is probably why it's not that successful, this podcast. So thanks very much. Thanks again, mate. Lovely
Cheers,
to meet you.
guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Club Awesome, for autistic children and their families, a place where everyone belongs and fun knows no age limit. This podcast has been brought to you by Snug Dubs Camper Van Hire.
Roam the world, park anywhere.
That's snugdubs.co.uk. Bond Carpentry, where precision meets creativity.
From bespoke cupboards to second fix carpentry, garden houses, and even the Cherrywood Podcast sign. Call 07738 732 931.
Bond Carpentry, licensed to drill.